reading from Canto 7, Chapter 8, text 1 through 23, and it's January 15th, 2025 at the VIHE. Shri Narada Uvacha Ata Daitya Sutta Sarve Shrutvatad Anuvarnitam Jaghur Niravadyatvan Naiva Guru Anushikshitam. Narada Muni continued, all the sons of the demons appreciated the transcendental instructions of Prahlad Maharaj and took them very seriously. They rejected the materialistic instructions given by their teachers, Shanda and Amarka. Atacharya sutasteshtam buddham ekantasam stitam alakshya bhitastvarito rajna avedayadyata. When Shanda and Amarka, the sons of Sukracharya, observed that all the students, the sons of the demons, were becoming advanced in Krishna consciousness because of the association of Prahlad Maharaj, they were afraid. They approached the king of the demons and described the situation as it was. This is the first time things have gone in that direction. The other two times, Hiranyakashipu asked Prahlad what was going on, and Prahlad answered, and the teachers were blindsided. In this case, it's the teachers who take the initiative. Kopavesha chalad gatra putram hantum manodare shiptra parushaya vacha praradam atad arhanam ahekshama papena tiraschinena chakshusha prasrayavanatam dantam badanjalim avastitam sarpapada hata eva swastam prakriti daruna. When Hiranyakashipu understood the entire situation, he was extremely angry, so much that his body trembled. Thus, he finally decided to kill his son Prahlad. I think that's quite interesting, because he had decided to kill him previously. Hiranyakashipu was by nature very cruel, and feeling insulted, he began hissing like a snake trampled upon by someone's foot. His son Prahlad was peaceful, mild, and gentle. His senses were under control, and he stood before Hiranyakashipu with folded hands. According to Prahlad's age and behavior, he was not to be chastised. Yet with staring, crooked eyes, Hiranyakashipu rebuked him with the following harsh words. Quite a contrast between the demon and the devotee. Shri Hiranyakashipu Uvacha Hey Durvin itamandat datman Kula Beda Karadama Stabdyamak Chasodrit Stabyan Sanodritvam Neshe Twaja Yamak Shemam. Hiranyakashipu said, O most impudent, most unintelligent disruptor of the family, O lowest of mankind, you have violated my power to rule you, and therefore you are an obstinate fool. Today I shall send you to the place of Yamaraj. Kudasya yasya kampante trayoloka saheshvaraha tasya me bittivan muda shashanam kim balo twagaha. My son Prahlada, you rascal, you know that when I am angry, all the planets of the three worlds tremble, along with their chief rulers. By whose power has a rascal like you become so impudent that you appear fearless and overstep my power to rule you? Shri Parada Uvacha Na Kevalam Me Bhavantascharajam Sabai Balam Balinam Cha Paresham Pare Vare Mi Stira Jagmayaye Brahmadayo Yena Vasam Pranitaha. Prahlad Maharaj said, My dear king, the source of my strength, of which you are asking, is also the source of yours. Indeed, the original source of all kinds of strength is one. He is not only your strength or mine, but the only strength for everyone. Without him, no one can get any strength. Whether moving or not moving, superior or inferior, everyone, including Lord Brahma, is controlled by the strength of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Little significant that he talks about Brahma, who gave Hiranyakashipu his benedictions, saying, hey, even Lord Brahma is getting everything from the Lord. Very important, famous verse. Shaishtra kala urukramosav, oja saha sattva palendriyatma, saesha vishvam parama swashaktibhi, srijatavatyati guna trayeshaha. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the supreme controller and time factor, is the power of the senses, the power of the mind, the power of the body, and the vital force of the senses. His influence is unlimited. He is the best of all living entities, the controller of the three modes of material nature. By his own power, he creates this cosmic manifestation, maintains it, and annihilates it also. Jayasharam bhavam mimam tvam atmanaha samam mano dvachva nashanti vivishaha rite jitad atmana utpatte stitat tadiyantan Stadhiyantasya Mahatsamarhanam. Prahlad Maharaj continued, my dear father, please give up your demoniac mentality. He doesn't actually say the word father, he just says twam, which means you, that Prabhupada's translating as father. Do not discriminate in your heart between enemies and friends. This is the main theme of this canto. Make your mind equipoised towards everyone, except for the uncontrolled and misguided mind. There is no enemy within this world. When one sees everyone on the platform of equality, then one comes to the position of worshiping the Lord perfectly. So it's just our mind that creates these impressions that this is my friend, this is my enemy. It's all in the mind. Dasyan pura sanna vijita lumpato manyanta eke swajita disho dasha jitatmano gnasa samasya dehinam sado swamoha prabhava kuta pare. In former times, there were many fools like you. Great way to talk to the head of the universe. Who did not conquer the 6 enemies that steal away the wealth of the body. These fools were very proud, thinking, I have conquered all enemies in all the 10 directions. But if a person is victorious over the 6 enemies and equipoised toward all living entities, for him, there are no enemies. Enemies are simply imagined by one in ignorance. So, swa moha prabhaha, created by one's own illusion. Kutaha pare, where are there others? Pare means anyone who's different. So if you're actually equipoised, if you have knowledge, right? We have right, jita atmanaha, one's victorious over oneself. Here Prabhupada's translating it as senses. Gnasya, if one's actually learned. Samasya, if you're equipoised. Dehinam, to all living entities. Sadhu, if you're a saintly person. Swamoha prabhava, you understand that it's just your own illusion, and you say, Kutaha, where are our enemies? Very, very important for all of us, not just Hiranyakashipu, who did not appreciate this. Shri Hiranyakashipu uvacha, vyaktam tvam martukamosi yotimartram vikatase murmurshunam himandatam datman Nanusyur Viklava Gidaha. Hiranyakashipu replied, you rascal! You are trying to minimize my value, as if you were better than me at controlling the senses. I mean, he thought he was pretty good at controlling his senses. This is overintelligent. I can therefore understand that you desire to die at my hands, for this kind of nonsensical talk is indulged in by those about to die. Yas twayamanda bhagyokto mad anyo jagat ishwaraha kwasho yadi sasarvatra kasmat stambain adrishyate. Almost unfortunate Prahlad, you have always described the Supreme Being other than me, a Supreme Being who is above everything, who is the controller of everyone, and who is all-pervading. But where is he? If he is everywhere, then why is he not present before me in this pillar? Ta-da! Soham vikatam an asya shirakaya dharamite gopayete haristwadya yaste sharanam ipshitam. Because you are speaking so much nonsense, I shall now sever your head from your body. That's interesting. He doesn't try to do that. Now let me see your most worshipful God come to protect you. I want to see it. By the way, don't try this at home. Not a good way to see God. Evan Duruk Tyr Muhur Ardayam Rusha Sutta Maha Bhagavatam Mahasura Kadyam Pragriyot Patito Varasanat Stambam Tada Dati Bala Swa Mushtina. Being obsessed with anger, Hiranyakashipu, who was very great in bodily strength, just thus chastised his exalted devotee son Prahlad with harsh words, cursing him again and again. Hiranyakashipu took up, so we don't have all the verses. We don't have everything, because he was going on and on. Cursing him again and again. Hiranyakashipu took up his sword, got up from his royal throne, and with great anger struck his fist against the column. So he's holding his sword, strikes his fist. He said he's going to sever Prahlad's head, but he doesn't take anything against Prahlad. He goes against the pillar. Tadaiva tasmin nindayo tibishano bahuva yenanda katam asputat yam vaiswa dishnopagatam twajadaya Shrutva swadam atyayam angamem ire. Then, from within the pillar, came a fearful sound, which appeared to crack the covering of the universe. Oh, my dear Yudhisthira, this sound reached even the abodes of the demigods, like Lord Brahma. And when the demigods heard it, they thought, oh, now our planets are being destroyed. So the first manifestation was just sound. Savikrama putra Vadeshpur ojasa nishamya niradham apurtvam adbhutam anta sabayam na dadadrisha tatpadam vitrasuryena surari yuktapaha. While showing his extraordinary prowess, Hiranyakashipu, who desired to kill his own son, heard that wonderful, tumultuous sound which had never before been heard. Upon hearing the sound, the other leaders of the demons were afraid. None of them could find the origin of that sound in the assembly. So one thing, our ears not only hear degrees and kinds of sound, but our ears can hear directionality. People with cochlear implants, by the way, cannot hear directionality. But they weren't able to tell. Where is it coming from? It seemed to be coming from everywhere. Satyam virhatum nijabritya bashitam vyaptim chabute shakileshu chatmana adrishyata yadbhuta rupam udhavan stambe sarayam namrigan namanusham. Namrigan namanusham wasn't an animal, wasn't a man. To prove that the statement of his servant Prahlad Maharaj was substantial. In other words, to prove that the Supreme Lord is present everywhere, even within the pillar of an assembly hall, the Supreme Personality of Godhead Hari exhibited a wonderful form never before seen. That form was neither that of a man nor that of a lion. Thus the Lord appeared in his wonderful form in the assembly hall. Sa sattvam enam parito vipashyan stambasya majyad anunirjinanam nayam mirgo napi naro vichitram aho kim etan nir migendra rupam. So here we have this migo napapi naro. It's not an animal and it's not a man. Nir mirgendra. So Nir is human, Mriga is the animals, Indra is the chief. So it's a man and it's the chief of the animals. When Hiranyakashipu looked all around to find the source of the sound, that wonderful form of the Lord, which could not be ascertained to be either a man or a lion, emerged from the pillar. So he's looking around, and then, in amazement, Hiranyakashipu wondered, what is this creature that is half man and half lion? Mimim samanasya samutito grato nasingarupastadalambayanakam prataptachamikara chandalochanam spuratsata keshara jimbitananam karaladamstram karavala chanchala shur anta jivam berukti mukolbanam stabdordradkarnam giri kandaradbhuta vyatasanasham hantubeda bishanam drisis prahatkayam adirga pivara grivo yuvaksha stalam alpamadjanam Chandramishu Goraishchuritam Tan Uruhire Vishvag Bujan Ikashatam Nakayudam Durshadam Sarva Nijatar Adjuda Praveka Vidra Vita Daitya Dhanavam. Hiranyakashipu studied the form of the Lord, trying to decide who the form of Nrsingadev standing before him was. The Lord's form was extremely fearsome because of his angry eyes, which resembled molten gold. Generally, lions have yellow eyes. His shining mane, which expanded the dimensions of his fearful face. His deadly teeth and his razor-sharp tongue, which moved about like a dueling sword. His ears were erect and motionless, and his nostrils and gaping mouth appeared like the caves of a mountain. His jaws parted fearfully, and his entire body touched the sky. His neck was very short and thick. Sounds like, weightlifter. His chest broad and his waist thin, and the hairs on his body were as white as the rays of the moon. His arms, which resembled flanks of soldiers, spread in all directions. So his arms looked like a whole army. As he killed the demons, rogues, and atheists with his conch shell, disc, club, lotus, and other natural weapons. Prayena me yam harin orn unmayina vadasmitonena samujatena kim evam bruvamste abhyapatya gada yudo nayam nisingam pratidaicha kunjaraha. Hiranyakashipu murmured to himself, Lord Vishnu, who possesses great mystic power, has made this plan to kill me. But what is the use of such an attempt? Who can fight with me? Thinking like this and taking up his club, Hiranyakashipu attacked the Lord like an elephant. Ta-da! All right. So, summary of this section is that Prahlad instructions to his schoolmates about bhakti had become effective, and they rejected their teachers Sunda and Amarka. Hiranyakashipu becomes angry at Prahlad, which he's done before, but now it's really gone too far. He tries to kill his son and attacks a pillar in anger. The Lord appears first in sound and then in a half lion, half man form. So, the basic questions that this section answers for us is how should we respond when what appears to be the opposite of what appears to be the opposite of what we want to hear, especially from a junior. So when somebody junior to us tells us something that we don't want to hear, how should we respond? And what is real fearlessness, and how do we achieve it? So the themes of this section deal with opposites. The fearlessness of the devotee versus ego mixed with fear of the materialist. So the fear of Hiranyakashipu from his ego, the fearlessness of Prahlad. The protection of the devotee versus the destruction of a demon, even when the devotee is a small, helpless child and the demon is a huge, strong man with many boons. The intelligence of the Lord versus the intelligence of the demons. Devotees and the innocent receiving good instruction and demons becoming angry at good instruction. So good instructions given to the innocent and the devotees, good instructions given to the demons, and the different ways in which they react. Okay, our first section is the conversation between Prahlad and Hiranyakashipu, text 1 to 13. So in verses 1 through 6, Prahlad's classmates become fixed up in bhakti yoga. Hiranyakashipu rebukes Prahlad and asks the source of his strength. So for text 1, if the teacher and the students are sincere, then everyone makes advancement and loses interest in materialism. So you have to have sincerity of both. And when a pure devotee like Prahlad preaches the glories of the Lord following the footsteps of another pure devotee, Narada Muni, his preaching is effective. Now, verse 2 is interesting because the students become one-pointed, and this becomes obvious to the teachers who become afraid. So it's an interesting point because Prahlad's devotion was not obvious to the teachers or to his father or to anyone. Prahlad's devotion was only obvious when he was asked directly. It was not obvious to his teachers at all. Prahlad appeared externally to go along with his teachers. Yes, 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 yes. Internally, he had a different mentality. And it was only obvious when Hiranyakashipu asked him, hey, what's going on at school? What did you learn from your teachers? Then he comes out with this stuff. But nobody at school could tell. Then we have Prahlad becoming emboldened after his father tries to kill him, and he preaches to the other students. And somehow now the students are emboldened, and exactly what they were doing to make their bhakti obvious is not clear. But they were not acting the way Prahlad acted. Their interest in bhakti became very obvious, and the teachers freak out. They're like, oh my God, we promised Hiranyakashipu that we would reform Prahlad, and now instead of reforming Prahlad, he's polluting the whole school. So it's really gotten out of hand. I mean, you might tolerate one kid, but now the whole school's getting out of hand. So they get scared, and they take the initiative to take Prahlad to complain. So previously that didn't happen because they weren't even aware of the problem. They brought Prahlad to his father, or Hiranyakashipu just called for his son, and this time they bring him, they say, we have a problem. So in text 3, Hiranyakashipu takes Prahlad's behavior as a personal insult. And this way of interpreting Prahlad's behavior is exactly what Prahlad Maharaj is talking about when he says, it's only your mind that perceives enemies. Prahlad's not his enemy. Prahlad doesn't desire harm for his father. Prahlad desires good for his father. And it's just like, your mind is making up a story about this that is not true. Your mind is deciding that my behavior is at enmity with you. My dear friends, such is the case for all of us. Our mind makes up stories about things, puts us in anxiety unnecessarily. All right, and then he became very angry. Anger is a natural biological response to a threat. So Hiranyakashipu becomes angry because he feels threatened. He feels threatened because his mind makes up that he feels threatened. Text 4, no matter how pious or austere or powerful a person is, when they mistreat or they're impudent, as Prabhupada says, towards great souls, it will destroy, quote, lifespan, opulence, reputation, religion, possessions, and good fortune. There's something that's operating outside of karma here. There's karma, and then there's this transcendent law. So according to karma, you can earn all these things, wealth, reputation, long life, and nobody can take away your karma. What you've earned by karma, you've earned by karma. That's yours. However, there are higher principles. Just like if you've gotten bad karma, the demigods can mitigate bad karma, just like a judge can mitigate a sentence for a crime. We just had in America our current president was convicted of 34 felonies, and the judge said, your conviction stands, you're a felon. However, you're not going to have any punishment. I'm not going to give you any punishment. No jail time, no fines, no probation. And he considered that having an active president in jail, or having an active president having to pay fines or report to a probation officer, would not be very seemly, would not be something very good for the country. So the point is that a judge can do that, right? The demigods, they have some power to do that. They can give you good karma you didn't deserve. I don't think they can take away your good karma. They can take away your bad karma. However, bhakti is operating on a different platform. And if you engage in bhakti, all of your karma can be nullified, even your good karma, which means you don't have to take birth again to get your good karma. Like Prabhupada says, on the mundane level, if you're charitable, you have to show up in another life to be rich. But if you're charitable for Krishna, if you're giving charity to please Krishna, then again, you don't have to take another birth to be rich. And similarly, your good karma can be eradicated by Vaishnava aparad. And this is actually like the Lord's trick to deal with these demons who, by their good karma and by their tapasya, get power in the world, that he tricks them to violate a higher principle of offending a Vaishnava. All right, text 5, Hiranyakashipu insults Prahlad, but Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur turns all the insults into compliments using tricks of Sanskrit grammar. Text 6, Hiranyakashipu asks Prahlad, how do you get the strength to be fearless? And we devotees know that everything we have, our ability, my ability to move my fingers, my ability to talk, to see, my strength, everything comes from Krishna. Just like in our body, the strength of my fingers comes from my body itself. If you cut off my finger, then it has no strength cut off from the body. And devotees are fearless because of two reasons. One, they depend on Krishna. And two, they're happy with whatever he does. They're happy with it. That's the fearlessness of the devotee. Sampade vipade jivane madhave. You're protecting me, and if you want me to be tortured and injured, if you want me to be sick, if you want to die, I trust that you're my friend, and I trust that everything you're doing is good for me. So verses 7 to 10, Prahlad says that the Lord is the source of everyone's strength and advises his father to give up his demoniac mentality. So verse 7, which is very important, is that Krishna is the source of everyone's strength. And Srila Prabhupada supports this by quoting from Gita 10:41. This could also be supported with 10:36. I am the strength of the strong. The Bhagavatam says the demoniac soldiers represent the prowess of the Lord. Verse 8, Krishna is the power of everything. So verse 9, Prahlad is still trying to help his father. He's saying, stop discriminating between friends and enemies. This is only within the mind, and your uncontrolled mind is your only enemy. We could have a week or a month to just discuss this one point. If we can just understand that there's a difference between objective facts and the story our mind tells us about those facts. Our senses and our mind are imperfect. First of all, we do not perceive objective facts objectively all the time. We can perceive something that happened different from what actually happened. And second of all, our stories about what happened are not the same as what happened. And it amazes me how long I was in the Hare Krishna movement before I understood this. This point is something I don't hear preached often enough. There's a difference between our stories about what happened and what actually happened. And to make this distinction, I asked all of you the other 2 times, what do you do to not identify with the body and mind? How do you do that? Because we're supposed to do that. And one of the ways we do that is to be able to tell the difference between what happened and our story about what happened. So let's say we have a meeting at 2:00. Like I had a meeting the other day with my son at 2:00. And I took a nap and I set my alarm, and somehow I slept through the alarm. And I woke up at 2:30. So that's a fact. I had a meeting at 2. I wasn't there. That's just a fact. I did not show up. I didn't contact him for actually 36 minutes late. Now, what does that fact mean? Does it mean I don't respect his time? Does it mean I don't love him? Does it mean I don't care? Does it mean I don't think our conversation was important? Actually, it didn't mean any of those things. It just meant I was particularly tired and I made a mistake. But easily, a person could deduce those other things. Easily. But there's a difference between the fact and the story about the fact. You know, somebody smiles at me and helps me out when I'm in trouble. Oh, they're romantically interested in me. So many people have said to me, oh, I know this other devotee is romantically interested in me, but they say they're not. And you're interpreting a fact. So we're interpreting someone as my enemy when it's not true. And the majority of problems in our life, my dear friends, even physical pain, is simply an interpretation of the mind. And a controlled mind, a fully controlled mind, is only possible in devotional service, as Prabhupada says in the purport here, because then one is above the modes. The higher one is up in the modes, the more one can discriminate between facts and my mind's opinion about the facts. The lower you are in the modes, the less you can discriminate. And only when we're fully above the modes can we absolutely discriminate. Okay, verse 10, Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur says, foolish persons like you, aka not conquering the 6 plunderers who steal everything and are situated with you, think that they have conquered the 10 directions by themselves. Where are the enemies, pare, for the wise person who has conquered the mind and thus conquered the 6 plunderers? Why would he have enemies? He has none, because enemies are created by one's own illusion. Again, I wish I had time to go into this in more depth. Verses 11 to 13, Hiranyakashipu threatens to kill Prahlad, which I find extremely humorous. I find humorous on many levels. First of all, because he'd already tried to kill Prahlad in so many ways and failed and already knew he couldn't kill Prahlad. Second of all, he doesn't actually try to kill Prahlad. He tries to kill a pillar. The guy's taking himself so seriously, I'm the ruler of the universe. But he's a joke. He's a joke. He's got his 5-year-old son there and he's got his sword. He says, I'm going to cut your head off. And instead of that, he tries to kill a pillar. Like, seriously, he tries to kill a pillar in his palace instead of his son. Okay, verse 11. Hiranyakashipu thought his son to be a fool. So he reacted very poorly to Prahlad's instructions because he was attached to his sense gratification. And also because he had pride that he didn't want to take any instructions from his son. So it was really a shame. He thought his son was a fool, but he was a fool. Now, generally, we're told not to instruct people who are unreceptive. Of course, Prahlad is answering questions. Again, it's instigated by Hiranyakashipu. Where did you get your power? And so Prahlad's answering him. Prahlad does not take, there's no instance where Prahlad takes the initiative to instruct Hiranyakashipu. He simply answers his questions. We could also say that Prahlad's trying to hasten the appearance of the Lord. And he also wanted to make it, he really cared about his father, which is interesting considering how abusive his father was. Hiranyakashipu is called Sri, the fortunate, the beautiful, the brilliant, because of his fortune in being the father of Prahlad. So verse 12, devotees can see the Lord because they have love, whereas materialists cannot. Prahlad could see the Lord in the pillar who was encouraging him. Srila Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur says, Prahlad says, he is everywhere. Why is he not in this pillar? Prahlad, seeing the proof, says, I see him in that pillar. And Prahlad was actually the most fortunate because he had the Lord's protection. So Hiranyakashipu thinks he's unfortunate. Hiranyakashipu was thinking, you're unfortunate because you're not going to inherit any property of mine. It's all going to go to my other kids. You're not going to get any. So you're very unfortunate because I rule the universe. But actually, Prahlad was the most fortunate because he had the association of the Lord. And 13, kind of a repeat of what was said previously in this Leela, that demons think the Lord is fictitious. They don't think he actually exists. Where is he? He's not anywhere. Okay, verses 14 to 17, Hiranyakashipu strikes his fist against the pillar, and the Lord appears in a half-man, half-lion incarnation to prove that the words of his devotees are true. So verse 14, anger reduces intelligence. He's so angry that he becomes really stupid. So instead of attacking Prahlad, as he threatened to do, he attacks the pillar. 15, the Lord first appears as sound, which frightened even Lord Brahma. At first it's just sound. And 16, Hiranyakashipu was actually scared of the sound despite his great power. And 17, this is very important, that the Lord appeared in a way to make his devotee statements true. So that's in reference to Prahlad Maharaj and in reference to Lord Brahma. So the Lord wants the statements of Prahlad and the statements of Brahma in giving the boons to be true. Verses 18 to 22. Astonished, Hiranyakashipu examines the fearsome features of Lord Nrsingadev. So in 18, Hiranyakashipu is puzzled by the Lord's form that circumvented his benedictions. But he doesn't seem to get that. He's just like, what? Who is this? What is this? But it doesn't hit him that his benedictions have been thwarted. When I used to teach high school students in the Gurukul, Prabhupada said we should teach our children some of the recognized literature. And so I would teach some things from Shakespeare. Prabhupada really liked Merchant of Venice, but I would usually teach Macbeth. And in Macbeth, the king, Macbeth, well, before he's the king, Macbeth gets benedictions from 3 witches that you will not be killed until the forest comes up to the palace, and you will not be killed by any man born of a woman. And you will be king. You will be king. You'll not be killed until the forest walks up to the palace, and you'll not be killed by any man born of a woman. So being emboldened by this, Macbeth and his wife kill the king in his sleep and take over the kingdom. They actually kill a whole bunch of people. And then finally, Macduff decides that he's going to get rid of Macbeth. And so Macduff and his army are marching on Macbeth's castle, and they camouflage themselves by cutting boughs of branches of trees and holding it in front of them. And so it actually looks like the forest is marching on the castle. And one of the guards comes to Macbeth and says, the forest is marching on the castle. Macbeth hadn't told anyone except his wife and his boons. And so he starts getting pretty freaked out that the forest is marching to the castle, which he thought was impossible. It's like, no one can hurt you, like the forest is not going to walk up to the castle. So he thought it was something like that. It's just not going to happen. You're going to be invulnerable unless the moon falls from the sky, kind of thing. You're like, okay. And so he's already a little weakened in his arrogance. And then he's fighting with Macduff. Finally, it gets down to a fight between him and Macduff. And he says, you can't defeat me. I cannot be killed by any man of woman born. And Macduff says, I was from my mother's womb untimely ripped. His mother probably died. Caesareans were not very common in those days. And at that point, Macbeth is like, oh, oops, and he gets killed. We see here with Hiranyakashipu, he doesn't have this kind of awakening where he sees Nrsingadev and he doesn't think, oh, I said no demigod, no animal, no man, and this is something that's none of those things. I said no being created by Lord Brahma, this is not any of those things. Oops, what's happening to my benefit? It doesn't happen. He's just like, okay, this is Vishnu's trick, but I can't be killed. He goes into his arrogance. We see that Hiranyakashipu kind of vacillates between anger and arrogance and fear, and he's afraid of the sound, and then he goes into arrogance. Okay, 19 through 22 is the wonderful description of Nrsingadev's form. And Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, Chambikara means gold. Satakeshara means his mane. Kara Dvala is a knife. He was fierce because of his face with its frown. He was frightening because of the opening of his jaw. He had a short, thick neck, broad chest, and thin waist. His hair was white like moonlight. He had hundreds of arms in all directions with nails similar to weapons. His normal weapons were the chakra and club. He had others as well, like a thunderbolt. Because of these weapons, the demons fled, but of course they were killed by the Lord. So the Lord starts out with killing the demons. Okay, and in 23, the fight starts. So though previously Hiranyakashipu was afraid on hearing the sound of the Lord, now he's confident he can't be killed, and he's starting to fight. And they fight like a lion and an elephant. And generally the lion wins. There's a temple in Govardhan of one Gaudiya Math branch. And on the gateway, there's a sculpture of a lion and an elephant. Okay, some interesting points. So in verse 1 purport, Prabhupada quotes 325, Satam Prasango Mamavirya Samvado, a very important Bhagavatam verse. In verses 3 to 4, we note that we often get angry when we feel insulted. An insult hits us as a threat, and we get angry as a mood of defense. Offense for defense, fight. Hiranyakashipu, as I mentioned, that Hiranyakashipu had already tried to kill Prahlad previously, and now he threatens this again. Also, it's interesting in the purport to verse 6, Prabhupada writes, the Lord requested Arjuna to declare this, the protection of the Lord, instead of declaring it himself, because sometimes Krishna changes his view, and therefore people might not believe him. Thus, Krishna asked Arjuna to declare that the devotee of the Lord is never vanquished. I found this as a very sweet statement from Srila Prabhupada about the nature of God and his devotees, the relationship between the Lord and his devotees. And this metaphor of a lion and elephant, it might have been used because Yudhisthira and those listening were familiar with this. So when we're teaching and preaching, we want to use examples and metaphors that are going to be meaningful to our listeners. Okay, so I thought before we take a break that I would share something with you that I wrote. Killing one's own kid with one's own hand. Yeah, but he had a sword. Okay, so this is something I wrote about the sound. So based on this verses of the sound. And I wrote this poem in 3 parts, from the view of Hiranyakashipu, from the view of Prahlad, and from just an objective point of view. So from Hiranyakashipu, I hope you don't mind. The pillar shook. It took a moment for the room to fill with sound. The sound came swift, like an unexpected kick from a horse. It filled every corner, suffocated all other noise. Billows of sound found every space, yet not a face, just sound, sound, sound. Oh, demons cried. We've tried to find the source. No recourse, no place to run. The sound is everywhere. No escape, no shelter. He has found me, but where is he? We are looking. When we see you, we'll challenge your authority. Challenge your right to disturb the ether, vibrating waves of terror, horror. And who can dare to horrify me? I, the supreme, the controller of the universal affairs. We are bundled in this sound, wrapped tight, cocoon night, vision obscured, blast of hot, searing, bleeding from raw wounds. It's chilling, freezing this blood where it oozes. Turn around in all directions to find the source, bewildered, lost, confused. We cannot fight this all-present sound. And then Prahlad's point of view. Sweet, gentle purr, soft motors were comforting me. I was thinking about a cat purring. Pillar broken with a crack, a present open hastily with glee for me. The best surprise hidden inside, but first is sound before vision found. The sound complete, cloud softness meets our quivering frame. How can I refrain from his glories? I want the bliss that is his to give by this sound, sound of love. It crushes evil for the glory of good. On and on, its eternal sound. Right? And then from an objective point of view, roar with blood-splattered mane, loud roar through the hall, shaking the universe, touching the sky, earthquake vibration, splintered crack of terrific pillar, toppling, teetering, on edge splintering, snap, it falls, God and noise, sound of protection, love of child, sweet child, still, calm, composed, serene, standing in hopeful surrender as Nrsingadev revealed his ferocious form of anger. Pierced with shrill laughter, the demigod's trepidation, he played with the demon like a mouse or a wasp, flick of nails, finished him. So I hope you enjoyed my personal meditation there, and we can take our usual break. Please come back in 12 minutes, top of the hour or bottom of the hour, depending on your time zone, and take a real break. Stand up, move, take your eyes from the screen. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Okay, so much in this section. All right, first what I'd like you to all do is to write a little summary of what happens when Hiranyakashipu sees Nrsingadev. So I'd like everyone to write that, 2 or 3 sentences in the chat of just summarize, not more than 4 sentences, absolutely, about when Hiranyakashipu sees Nrsingadev. Okay, if everybody could just write that in the chat, please. Excellent, Nardrishi. This from everyone, please. Okay, very nice, Prema Manjari. Okay. Hey, Neelamani, you have quite a bit here. Oh, you're remembering the description of the body. Okay. Excellent. Everybody else, please, if you haven't yet written something, please write something. I don't know, but see, Vamandev wasn't very scary until he showed his universal form, so. Oh, no. When he was just a little boy, he was very intentionally not scary. It was his way of getting in. Excellent. Excellent. Ajay, yes. I'm pleasantly surprised. Yes. Yeah, lost his intelligence. Excellent. Excellent. Okay. So I'm going to post my next question in the chat because it's a long question. Yes, Ramananda Krishna, though, he was thinking, they know, that he was going to be successful. Okay, so this is my next question. That we keep finding this emphasis in Prahlad's teachings to his classmates and to his father about equanimity between friends and enemies. And I want us all to recall how the first 3 verses of the 7th canto began with this question of whether or not the Lord is partial. So why is this so important in Bhakti Yoga? Anybody's thoughts? Why is this equanimity?
You were talking very, very fast while
It's in the chat, Mahalakshmi.
I can understand when you talk so fast.
That's why I put it in the chat. I said, I'm putting it in the chat. So that way, all of you who have English as your 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, or 7th language, which is probably almost all of you, can read it in the chat. Excellent. Yes, beginning. But why? You're just repeating it, Asi Prabhu. This is called a tautology. I'm asking, why is it important? You're saying, because it's important. I'm asking you why it's important. He keeps saying it over and over again. He says it to his classmates over and over again, says it to his father over and over again. Why is this so important in Bhakti Yoga? Okay, so you're doing it backwards. You're saying if you have devotion, you will see everyone equally. We're asking, why do you need to see everyone equally in order to have devotion? Be able to see clearly, to be fair to others, to develop humility. Okay, so Nardarishi, the two things you're saying are to be fair and to see clearly and develop humility. Three things. Okay. It's on the level of spirit, which is beyond a difference of material duality. So why is that important in Bhakti? I still don't know why it's important in Bhakti. Subhadra Radhika, you're just making a statement. I'm saying, why is it important? You said that's what devotees do. Why? Imagine if I said, why should I chant Hare Krishna? And you say, well, that's devotees just do that. But I still don't know why. Because the Lord is one. I'm sure you're getting that, Abhirupa Malati, but I'm not making the connection. Equanimity shows that one is beyond dualities. Advaita Krishna, I think you're very close. Expand it a little more. Mahalakshmi, because fear is a cause of failure, and we are afraid, we call to danger to come, and what to speak of spirituality, because it shows a desire to be superior, and that does not allow us to see God. Okay, you're saying that kind of awkwardly, but if I can kind of try to pull out what you're saying, I think what you're saying is that when we see friends and enemies, we become afraid, and we get in a sense of danger, and then we're no longer able to act spiritually. Is that what you're saying? Okay. And I think you also said that it's opposed to humility, that when we see friends and enemies, it means that we take a position of superiority. I'm superior to my enemies. And in this mood of superiority, we can't see the Lord who is supreme. Is that what you said? Did I get it? Excellent. You gave the best. You didn't say it very clearly, but your point was the best answer so far that anybody has given. Because everyone is a part and parcel of Krishna. Why do I have to see that for Bhakti, Sitarani? I still don't know. Why do I have to see that in order to? Why is it so important? Okay, Kanta is saying, as far as I remember in Bhagavad Gita, this pair of the opposite states is the highest level of consciousness, the most difficult one to achieve in the material world. So if someone transcends this duality, he's very close to pure devotion. Okay, I think what you're saying, Ekanta, is that in order to get close to devotion, we have to be above duality. I'm still not quite sure why. Why do I have to be above duality in order to get close to devotion? You're basically saying the same thing in another form. I'm saying, why do you have to be above duality to perform bhakti? And you're saying, because you have to be above duality. You see? Do you see that? Yes? You've all tolerated me this far. So hopefully I'm not offending anybody. Hopefully none of you think I'm your enemy by telling you this. Okay, Murari. Lord is equal to everyone. Process of knowing him is common. Bhakti path is same to everyone, so it's important. Okay, I'm a little confused here, Murari, that what I hear you saying is that as far as engaging in bhakti, that's open to everyone, whether they're friends and enemies. But why do I personally, me and you, why do you, Murari, why do you have to stop seeing the world in terms of friends and enemies in order to advance in bhakti? Why is that a necessary thing for you?
The process of bhakti is common. When the process is common, I will have to say in the same way, yes, all others are seeing. The devotional services are common. And the goal to reach, the path to reach is only one. So I will have to align myself with everything, whether it's an enemy or friend, whatever it is, that the bhakti path is one to reach the Lord.
So when you see that bhakti path is one, how does that help you in your own bhakti? What does that do for you in your own bhakti?
So I can follow others. I can follow my teachers.
You can follow your enemies also?
Not necessarily that my choice.
So I'm still confused about what you're trying to say. I think it's worthwhile, but I'm having trouble following it. So I don't see friends and enemies. I realize this distinction is only in my mind, and I'm neutral and impartial to everyone. And that's related to the fact that bhakti is available to everyone. And I have to know that for my own advancement.
I am
That's what I'm getting from you, but I'm not making the connections. I'm seeing these as separate points, but I'm not able to draw lines between these points. So can you help me?
see, I am in ISKCON. I am
Yes.
following the acharyas and seniors,
Yes.
and
Okay.
there are so many neophytes also coming, newly people who are trying to join the institution. They will be in a
Okay.
different level of understanding and different level. Somebody may be interested, somebody may not be interested.
Okay.
Knowing all that, my path is only follow my acharya who is properly come in the discipline succession and who given me a path towards the Lord, like what type of devotional service I can do. So
Okay. I get that. And how is that related to if someone comes up and insults you? So if somebody comes up and says, you're a fool, you're an idiot, you don't know what you're doing, I'm going to go to the temple president and tell them you're a fool and have them take your service away.
so there
And
also there
if
also
you don't respond, if you don't internally see this person as an enemy or respond to this person as an enemy, how does this help you with what you just said?
not that's a path of the devotees. What it is clear is whatever others says, our path we cannot change from because of others' intervention. We fixed it and we taken somebody as our guru and we are following him. And in that time, and anybody come and say anything, that's why so many regulations like Amanitam, Madambitam, Acharya Basanam, all those things, it's coming into place so that we
So
can follow all that.
I think what you're saying is that having this detachment from friends and enemies allows us to stay firm on our own path no matter how other people deal with us. Is that what you're saying?
I could not understand again, please.
Okay. Is what you're saying, I'm trying to understand what you're saying. So if I don't see anyone as a friend or anyone as an enemy, that helps me stay fixed in following my own guru and authorities because
Correct.
I won't be dissuaded by the behavior or the words of others. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's what I'm telling.
Okay, I like that. I like that point. I like that point. That people aren't going to be able to influence me because I'm not going to see them as friends or enemies.
Agreed.
Okay. Nilamani, you make an interesting point. It's a recognition that actually the Lord resides in everyone's heart as Paramatma. So why is that important for bhakti? To take it a step further. Okay, because we'll always be put in a situation, we'll get disturbed because we're an ocean, we need to rise above. Okay, but you're just repeating the thing. So I'm saying, why do you have to be free from disturbances? And you're saying, because we have to be free from disturbances. Why? Why do we have to be free from disturbances to help us in our bhakti? Because then only the Vasudeva Kutumbaka can be established. Why? Ramananda Krishna. Why? Sarvadam Sarvabhutanam. That's the nature of a sadhu. You're saying we should do it because we should do it. Krishna is equal to everyone, and his bhakti can start on that level. Asit, I think you're touching something important. Take it one more step, Asit Prabhu. Krishna is like that. Therefore, friends and enemies means we are materially conditioned. Yes. Okay, but
part and parcel also to be like that.
Excellent. Yes. If I'm going to approach Krishna, I have to realize that I have the same nature as Krishna. Like Prabhupada says, you can't enter fire without being fire. Sitarani, you want to explain this more?
Mataji, I was thinking more from the perspective that Krishna says in so many places in Bhagavad Gita that I want a person who's equipoised is dear to me. In 12th chapter, he says it in many places. So if we want to perform bhakti, the inherent thing is we want to please Krishna. And if he's giving those instructions, then that's what we do.
Okay. I mean, that's a perfectly acceptable answer. However, I don't think that answer would convince somebody who's not already practicing Krishna consciousness, for example. Why do you have to be equipoised towards friends and enemies? Because Krishna tells us that pleases him. It's okay, but it's like, you know, why are you setting the table like that? Because that's how my mother likes it. That's okay. Where the devotee can just say, I don't know why Krishna likes it. I don't know why Krishna wants me to be above duality. I have no idea, but that's what he's saying. So I'm going to do it because that's what he says.
Because duality means material conditioning, and Krishna doesn't want us to be materially conditioned. And
Why does duality mean material conditioning?
because then you're seeing everyone as separate. You know, everyone is separate.
Okay.
In
Now
interest.
you're getting it. Now you're getting there. Now you're getting there. Now we're coming to this point because I keep pushing the why, the why, the why, the why. You're seeing people as separate from what?
Separate from Krishna, like they have a different identity. They do not belong to him, and you know, so I'm seeing them as separate. I'm seeing myself as separate from Krishna, and that is why I'm creating this discrimination.
Okay. So in order to be Krishna conscious, what do I have to see? In regard to friends.
Everyone is part and parcel of Krishna.
Not only that everyone is part and parcel of Krishna, but also what about people's behavior? I come at you with a knife trying to kill you. You don't see me as your enemy. How do you do that? Prahlad's doing that, okay? He's not seeing his father as his enemy.
Because Krishna is sanctioning ultimately everything.
Yes.
So
yes. You've got a great reason there. Thank you. Because then I'm seeing Krishna's behind it. Okay. Okay, Mahalakshmi, it shows love to all, and love to all shows love to God. If I don't like, yes, good answer. If I don't love a part of God, then I don't love God. That's true with loving yourself too, by the way. Okay, Premanjri says, because one cannot advance further if one does not hear this lesson. My spiritual master says again and again, the test for advancing towards higher states as devotional service is that one will be attacked. So how does one respond? If he sees in duality, he will become inimical toward the attacker. If he understands, at least in theory, that everyone is part and parcel of the Lord, one understands the Lord is behind. Yes, that one has to respond differently. He always said we have to pray for the welfare of the person who attacks us. The attacker becomes dear to me, and the enmity of the attacker dissipates. We usually become friends. Yes, not always. Not always. Okay, the main why that I saw that you're bringing out is that the Lord is behind everyone. Okay, this is interesting, Leela Madhurli Lalita, that the duality is based on bodily consciousness. I think you're getting very close here. That all this friends and enemies things is based on a false what? Leela Madhurya Lalita? A false what? Unmute, Leela Madhurya. Yes, a false what?
Yes, ma'am.
It's all based on the body, so it's all based on a false
Ego.
ego.
False ego, yeah.
It's all based on that I am the body.
Yes.
Every concept of friends and enemies is based on the body, and I have to give that up. Excellent, thank you. Above duality is like being above bodily consciousness. Yes, Advaita Krishna. We need steadiness in bhakti, so we need to overcome duality. That's interesting. Golokavasini, you'd have to go another few layers deeper than that. That why, okay, Golokavasini, why is it that not seeing friends and enemies is part of achieving steadiness? Golokavasini?
Yes, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
How is it that being able, why is it that giving up this concept of friends and enemies brings us steadiness? Can you explain that?
Yes, Mataji, if we are always disturbed by these situations, then we can't focus our mind on Krishna. We can't be steady because these dualities are related to the mind. And if the mind is always absorbed in likes and dislikes, happiness and distress and all, then our mind will not be absorbed in Krishna, and then no point of doing bhakti.
Excellent. Excellent. So, you know, you're there in the kirtan, it's an incredible kirtan, and you look around and there's some devotee who insulted you a month ago, and your mind is disturbed. Oh, why is he here? I don't want to see him in the kirtan. I
Mataji,
remember,
I
I
have a
remember what he said to me 2 months ago. So yeah, the mind is disturbed.
Mataji, I think this is a subtle body, right? Mind, intelligent, false ego, and we have to go beyond the subtle body. So this is all comes on the material concept. And if you want to go and unite with Krishna, you have to be on the spiritual platform. We have to become pure soul. So we have to beyond this all material concept.
Yes, this is very good. This is the point that if I want to be with Krishna, I have to act in my spiritual nature. Sri Radha Govinda is saying that it helps us to develop compassion and humility. So the same point I think that was made, I think it was made by Mahalakshmi, that we don't want to see ourselves as being superior to others. That I think my enemy, I'm superior. Mahalakshmi is saying to see that God is my friend. Free from material desires, I'll be able to get free from dualities and engage in bhakti. Okay. Okay, Pramamanjari said, because the Lord is everywhere, and in reality, the whole world is friendly and helping us to advance. In the illusion of duality, we're fearful, and we see enemies everywhere besides friends. Excellent, because you see that along with Prahlad's instructions not to see friends and enemies, right on the parallel track is this instruction to see the Lord everywhere and to see the Lord as our friend. They have to go together. Is this starting to come out for everybody now? Are we starting to get some more clarity? Okay, having the same mood as the Lord, Ramananda Krishna. Okay, Advaita Krishna is talking about having a sankalpa, that we have to have our mind fixed to have a sankalpa. So these two things run in parallel. We cannot see that the Lord is everywhere and that he's our friend if we see that people are able to hurt me. If I think that anyone can hurt me or that anyone can help me, I cannot see the Lord everywhere and see that he's my friend. If I see the Lord's everywhere and see that he's my friend, I know that I'm always being helped. No jiva has the power to help me other than to connect me with Krishna, and no jiva has the power to hurt me. This is Rake Krishna Mare Krishna Rake Ke Prasant Prabhu. And I can only have that mood if I don't see that anyone else has the power to help or hurt me. Help or hurt me is only in relationship to my body. People do apparently have the power to help or hurt me in relationship to this world and this body. That is true. It appears that somebody can come with a knife or a gun and cut me up or shoot me, or they can break into my house and steal my things, and they can set my house on fire, and they can tell everybody lies about me. And on the material level, that looks like it's true. And it looks like people can help me. People can give me nice food, and they can let me use their car, and they can spend time with me. And, you know, it appears that people can befriend me or be at enmity to me on that level. But actually, nobody can hurt me in any way that's not sanctioned by the Lord. Nobody can help me in any way that's not sanctioned by the Lord. On the karmic level, nobody can hurt me beyond my karmic due to be hurt, and nobody can help me beyond my karmic due to be helped. Prabhupada would say, I am not your friend. He said, I cannot be your friend. He said, I am your friend in this sense that I can give you to Krishna, who is your friend.
It's actually an indication that we are fixed in the Lord. Because, if you're at the temple and, this is a practical thing, for years, and people you like and you don't like. But when you're really fixed in devotional service, if you already fixed your mind in the purpose of serving Krishna, then automatically you just don't worry about it. You don't go. So it is more like a symptom, I feel, that we've reached a certain level in devotional service.
It's both ways. It's a symptom and it is supposed to be part of our sadhana. If it wasn't supposed to be part of our sadhana, then Prahlad Maharaj wouldn't be instructing this to the children and to his father. So he's
It
not
is
just
definitely
saying,
part of our sadhana.
when you become Krishna conscious, you'll be free from duality. And until that point, go ahead and be in duality. He's not saying that. He's saying that as you need to actively give up this friends and enemy, particularly that one. So he's not hitting so much on the honor, dishonor, heat and cold, fame and infamy, gold and pebbles and stone. He's really hitting on this friends and enemy. And you've got to give that up as part of your process, not just as a symptom. Yes, it is also a symptom. It's like if you are Krishna conscious, you'll chant the name of the Lord, and it's also the process. Yes, Sri Radha Govinda.
I mean, something similar to what Prashant Prabhu is asking, but I would like to know your internal experience. I mean, some people are threatened by you, your leadership and, etc. And you have enemies. You have enemies. At least they see you as enemies. And they might do different things. Okay, that's on a personal level. And then on a service level, you might be fighting for certain things for the movement. And then there may be a group of people that are really doing the service to Srila Prabhupada. And
that's also true.
They really consider you an enemy. So my question is really on a very honest, frank platform. Do you not see them as enemy? How do you process it? How do you overcome that? I'd really like to know, how did you process it? Because one thing is looking at outsiders as enemies who are, enemies of Krishna consciousness movement. But sometimes we can have within an organization, within a community, the concept, very strong enmity.
Yeah. You can have it within your family. This was just what we're reading about in the Bhagavatam is a family matter.
Right.
We're reading about a family, a very dysfunctional family. Yes. What family are you from? I'm the kid of Hiranyakashipu. First, Mahalakshmi's question, does it mean that we should just stand there instead of leaving? Sometimes. That's what Maharaj Ambarish did. The reason that Maharaj Ambarish did that is because he considered that he was the host and Durvasa was the guest, and he was a Kshatriya householder. Durvasa was a Brahmana renunciate, and he felt that if his guest, who was a Brahmana renunciate, wanted to chastise him up to the level of killing him, that it was his duty to just take it. Believe me, he would not have done that on the battlefield. He was a king. And even if Durvasa as a Brahmana, if he were on the battlefield like Drona on the battlefield with armor and weapons, and it was then he would have fought. He wouldn't have just stood there. Generally, we should not just stand there. This relates to what I talked about yesterday. If there's an obstacle, can you get through it? And if you can get through it, what will be the cost? So if somebody is trying to kill you, can you do anything about it? Is there anything you can do about it? That's the first question. Are you even able to do anything about it? If you're chained up in a basement, hand and foot, and a person's coming to kill you, there's probably nothing you can do about it. What can you do? And then what's the price of doing something? What will be the price of doing something? You figure out, what can I do? And then what's going to be the cost? Is there going to be a spiritual cost, a moral, ethical cost, a legal cost? And then you decide what to do. Okay. And then Prasant's question relates to criminals. So criminals are supposed to be punished. If someone's a criminal, they are supposed to be punished by the government. That is out of love for them and out of love for the society, because if the government, who's the representative of God, even bad governments are representing God, if the person is punished by a government, their karma is reduced or eliminated, and they can have a better start after that. So also it has to be for the peace and tranquility of society. You can't have a bunch of criminals running around. I see this when I travel the world and I go to places that are higher or lower in crime, and you go to places that have high uncontrolled crime and people are not peaceful. And it's very difficult for them to execute their duties in their life if they're not peaceful. Whereas if you go to places where crime is punished, then people are peaceful. They can live their lives. So for the love of people in general and for the love of the criminal. Now, generally punishment should be done by the government. It's not that we should become vigilantes. So, I mean, obviously, if I see somebody trying to kill somebody in front of me, legally, that's also considered a kind of self-defense if I'm trying to protect somebody else. Like Prabhupada was very critical of Gandhi, who said he would be non-violent if his daughter's chastity was being violated in front of him. And Prabhupada said, this is nonsense. So if somebody is trying to hurt someone in front of me, and again, if I have the means to do anything or to protect myself, otherwise I should report it to the proper authorities. And then Sri Radha Govinda was asking about personal enemies. And I can't say I'm perfect in this. I'm a work in progress. And sometimes it's easier and sometimes it's harder. But generally having this mood of Mari Krishna Rake Krishna Mari Ke, I have found to be extremely helpful. And as I've gone through life, I've seen that people's ability to help me or hurt me is not dependent on their intentions and their actions, or even my receptivity. There's something else going on there. That there are people who try to help me and it just doesn't work. They're just not able to help me. They do their best. They genuinely want to help me. They're doing something that they consider to be kind and they consider to be helpful. And it just isn't. For whatever reason, it just isn't. I mean, you could think of it in a very, suppose I send you a package in the mail, I mail you, I'm going to mail Sri Radha Govinda, a package, and it just doesn't get there. It gets lost somewhere. It just doesn't arrive. So it's like that with also there are people who've tried to hurt me and they haven't been effective. I mean, one time back in the 80s, I was leaving my house and I don't think I've ever said this publicly. One devotee drove up in his van and tried to run me over with his van. Nothing happened at all. I was just completely fine. He died a few years ago. And I don't think I ever told his wife what happened that day. But anyway, he died a few years ago, and I didn't end up offering condolences to his wife. And next time she saw me, she said, "Why didn't you offer condolences?" And I was thinking, well, so there was this one devotee in Europe who made a fake video. He took a video of this rock singer. I would have been like 7 years old. And this rock singer singing about how she hates men and said that it was a video of me before I joined the movement and that I was ruining the movement and because I hate men, which I don't hate men anyway. And it wasn't even me. And I wrote to him and I said, you're just lying to people. You're taking a video of some rock star who at the time was like 25 and I was 7 singing some song and telling people it's me and don't do this. And he said, oh, everybody knows it's a joke. And I said, no, I don't think they do. And I even had his guru write to him, which didn't do any good. And then I just went on with life. I mean, I was getting letters from people, 2 different kinds of letters. One letter from people who actually did their research to find out that that wasn't me and said, I'm so sorry that this person is spreading lies about you. And the other set of letters were from people who said, it's okay, whatever you did before joining the movement, it doesn't matter. And I laughed about it then too, it's Mari Krishna Rake Krishna Mari Ke. I've just seen practically, if somebody's able to help me, it's because Krishna's letting them help me. And if someone is able to hurt me, it's because Krishna's letting them hurt me. And either way, there's some lesson there for me. And there's something for my personal growth. And sometimes I try to counter And sometimes I don't. Again, it depends. Do I have the ability to counter, and what's the price? I really like Saint Teresa. I have this on my website, urmiladasi.com. I have an essay there from Saint Teresa of Avila, who was a Carmelite nun about 500 years ago in Spain. And she said that she basically made a vow, made a determination that if ever anybody criticized her for something that she did not do, that she would not respond. And part of her internal thought, she said, is there's so many things I have done wrong that people aren't criticizing. If they're criticizing me unjustly now, well, you know. And she also said, if I need to be defended, God will find a way to defend me. I don't need to defend myself. And she says, there's one caveat. She said the one caveat is when not defending yourself is going to hurt others. And I found that that's very rarely the case, but sometimes. I have been in some situations where people attacking me unjustly, that if I just let it stand, that other people would be hurt. And so, you know, I tried to deal with it. But generally, more and more, Kavi? What? I have no idea, Mahalakshmi. So, a caveat. What is a caveat? Look it up.
I didn't know how to write it. Okay.
Well, broaden your English and be a better translator, which is your main service. So look it up. So it's mostly a question of that I see Krishna, you know, I work to see Krishna everywhere, and I work to see that Krishna is my friend, and that everything that's happening to me is beneficial. Now, if I can't feel that way in the first few seconds, which is very common, and Krishna says that in the 11th canto, that even a sadhu cannot immediately resettle their mind when insulted by uncivilized persons. A caveat means also an exception, a warning or exception. So, you know, I'm not going to be better than all the sadhus in the Bhagavatam. I'm not going to be better than Vidura and etc. And even the Lord, it says, was disturbed by the insults of Hiranyaksha because he has feelings. So then you just simply detach and wait, that don't respond. Somebody said that the other day about, I think it was Aja, somebody said it, about having this pause. You know, that this initial reaction, this person is an enemy, I have to do something about it right now. That's what happened to Hiranyakashipu. Why are you so strong? It's from God, just like yours. And he's the most powerful. Oh, I got to do something right now. He didn't have to do anything right now. He could have waited it out. He could have let his anger flow through him. So our initial reaction to people acting in a way to hurt us is going to be a surge of bodily chemicals and stress hormones to get us ready to attack or to run away. That's natural. It's part of our defense system. It's because Krishna loves us. We have this system. So that if I am being chased by somebody with a knife, I'm flooded with these chemicals that enable me to run much faster than I can normally run. Or to beat up somebody that I normally wouldn't be able to beat up. That's what they're there for. And to just move back and say, do I really need to run away? Is somebody really threatening me with a knife here? And just let the chemical reactions subside. While they're subsiding, just observe. Don't do anything at all. Just observe. Let those things happen in the body. When they're finished, which generally takes 90 seconds, then you say, hey, Rake Krishna Mare Ke, Mare Krishna Rake Ke. Krishna is everywhere. He's my friend. Do I need to take any practical action here to protect others? And don't ask yourself that question while you're in the rage of the feeling. Do I need to take any practical action here to protect others? All right. Is that all right? Excellent. Generally, I don't need to take any practical action to protect others. And if Krishna wants to protect me, he'll protect me. And if he doesn't, ain't nothing I can do about it. All right. Question I'd like everyone to answer. So, Prahlad's strength, Hiranyakashipu's strength was coming from the same place. Why were they so different in their manifestation of strength? Why did it show up so differently if it came from the same source? Excellent, as per their desire. Other thoughts? Oh, nice. Nice. False ego or instrument. Due to intentions. Excellent. I like this, Mahalakshmi. Prahlad had the understanding, I'm a servant, his father, I'm a controller. First class. Their consciousness was different, yes. And Stuti Priya Radha said this also, same point, but said in another wonderful way. Prahlad is surrendered, and Hiranyakashipu wants to do things himself. Woo! That was great. One is surrendering. I'm surrendering to Krishna's strength. I'm going to use Krishna's strength as he wants me to use it. I'm going to be the instrument from his strength. And Hiranyakashipu was like, I'm going to take the Lord's strength and I'm going to control it. And I'm going to use it how I want. And I'm going to use it against the Lord's devotee. Krishna's like, you're not supposed to use my strength like that. Okay. Okay, so when Prahlad, as I mentioned, that when Prahlad didn't accept the words of his teachers in the first two instances, that was not obvious to his teachers or to anyone else. But when the children become Krishna conscious, that's obvious to their teachers. Now, the Bhagavatam and the Acharyas do not say in what way it was obvious to their teachers. So this is going to be what Prabhupada calls philosophical speculation, which is okay, folks. Philosophical speculation is okay. So can we try to have some good guesses here about how did the children, how might they have demonstrated their devotion in ways that their teachers went, oops, we have a problem. Maybe they were doing kirtan. Okay. That's the way they had it in the old Golden Avatar productions, which, by the way, gets the chronology of the story wrong because the Bhagavatam didn't come out for years. But yeah, the way the old Golden Avatar thing was that they were all having uproarious kirtan. That's any other thoughts about what the children might have been doing? Okay, but how would they demonstrate that, Narada Rishi? Because see, Prahlad was also uninterested and the teachers couldn't tell. That was all internal. They may have started challenging what the teachers were saying, whereas Prahlad never did that. The teachers ate burnt pots? I don't follow that. Maybe they became effulgent. Oh. Of course, Prahlad was probably already effulgent. Maybe they greeted their teacher with Hare Krishna. They were not affected by the teacher's warnings if they would continue showing, but they were all friends before that. Disinterested, again, Prahlad was disinterested and the teachers didn't know. Can you hide your disinterest from somebody? Yes, he was hiding it. So they might openly perform devotional activities, happy, calm, equipoised. Yeah, but Prahlad was happy, calm, and equipoised too, and they didn't figure that out. So maybe they became vegetarian. that maybe they openly started defying their teachers. Maybe they asked unpleasant questions. Okay, maybe started having group activities. Maybe they were preaching to their teachers. Okay, very nice. So I really doubt that they went up to their teachers and said, Hare Krishna in the morning. But maybe, I mean, they're just little kids, you know. Maybe they stopped being so aggressive. Maybe they were dancing. Okay. But they might have been dancing before. I hope you're all having fun, by the way. Are you all having fun? Is everybody having fun? By the way, as teachers, do remember people will learn more when they're having fun. Okay. So we talked about that questions here is that how we should respond to what appears to be the opposite of what we want to hear, especially from a junior. And I'm wondering what the answer to this is. I mean, the classmates also were told something different from what they wanted to hear, but they didn't see themselves as superior to Prahlad. But, you know, basically my question here is what should Hiranyakashipu have done and what should we have done? I think we all have experience of trying to instruct somebody who who gets angry and doesn't hear what we want to say. Hopefully they don't try to kill us when we give them some instruction. But how should we respond? If somebody gives us an instruction that's the opposite of what we wanted to hear, and we see that person as junior to us, we see that person as lesser than us in some way, by age, by experience, some thoughts about how to respond. Okay, pause. Okay. Philosophically, one should accept good advice regardless of the source. Ask the junior to explain what they're saying. Pray for them. Krishna. Oh, Krishna, 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 Krishna. So if I'm giving a class and one of my students in the class who's younger than I am and has been in ISKCON less time than I says something to me in the class that I don't want to hear, says, Urmila, you're wrong about this. You're quoting the verse wrong. You've remembered the past time wrong. You're giving the wrong philosophy. I don't think my response should be, I'll pray for you. Oh, Krishna. Oh, Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. Yeah. Okay. Okay. I'm going to have to scroll back up. I'm sorry. I usually pretend not to be affected. Okay. If I could truly accept and be grateful. Okay. That's the pause. So you can pause and pretend not to be affected while you're pausing. Don't stifle the, don't try to stifle the flow of biochemicals. If you do that, you'll actually increase their duration in your body. So if you're going to say, I'm pretending not to be affected, make sure that that is not a suppression or repression, because then you're going to be actually affected much longer. And to accept and be grateful, there is still time for him to understand. This is also assuming that the person telling me this is wrong. We see maybe Krishna is teaching me through him or her, trying to make me humble. Golok and Vasani, I really like that. Be tolerant toward them. Remain calm and open to future dialogue. Excellent. Listen to the person, try to understand their reasoning for that behavior. I like that, Ajay Prabhu. Like they try to understand their reasoning. I mean, they might be wrong, but try to understand what is it that they're trying to say. Maybe they're not wrong. Accept good advice, putting aside our false ego. And yes, it hurts the false ego, but the higher self feels humbled. And I think we've all, I hope we've all experienced this. I hope so. That, you know, when we're able to do that pause and just, oh, look at my false ego's feeling offended. How interesting is that? But I am not the false ego. I am not the mind. I don't have to feel offended. Let me see if there's something worthy in what this person has to say. Maybe there isn't. Maybe they're just an envious upstart rascal, and I should pray for them. But maybe there's something that they have to say that would be valuable. And then I feel enlivened. That's my experience. I go from the false ego feeling offended to my real self feeling enlivened. Vaisheshika Prabhu has this motto, I live to be corrected. Okay, Narada Rishi says Prahlad was junior in age, but senior in realization. He was fit to be his father's teacher, but his father certainly did not perceive him like that. Okay, open-minded, objective, and internalized. Yes, okay, Prema Manjari, exactly. So, but to take the time, not just to assume that because it's coming from a junior, that this is also part of why it's important not to see friends and enemies. Don't take it personally. That means not seeing in terms of friends and enemies. Okay, maybe there are others involved and the problem might be a lot more serious. And then you have to consider. Sometimes Prabhupada would deal very heavily with people in a public situation if he thought that other people would be hurt. Prema Manjari, yes.
Yes, I wanted to share this because it was a very important learning experience for me. As when teaching Bhakti Shastri, I had one student who was really creating a disturbance in the class, and who was also getting like other students on, like forming a little, how to say, a little group, and they became really antagonistic towards me, and they were like attacking me, just like criticizing me openly. And at that time, I was just trying to accept it in a humble way. So I actually accepted it in a very humble way, although most of the criticism was actually not, it was not proper because I didn't really do the thing that they were accusing me, but I just took it in a humble way. But later what happened, that same student, she created such a havoc in the entire community, like tore apart the entire community with her criticism and attacking the highest authorities, and just creating a big polarity. And it was a devastation what she did. And I was feeling so regretful because I felt I was her teacher at that time. And if I would do something to correct her, to respond in a proper way, but strong way, to correct her improper behavior, then maybe it would not escalate to such a degree as it was. So this was such a learning experience for me, that internally, as a teacher, I may respond in a humble way, but as a teacher, I have a duty to correct a student which is behaving in an improper way. So I just want to share that.
I mean, and as I say, sometimes Srila Prabhupada would get very strong with people if they were really out of line. I mean, he would sometimes. In general, you want to be careful because you don't want to shut down genuine questions and genuine doubts. So you don't want to create an atmosphere of fear in a classroom where they're afraid to give a wrong answer. You don't want people being afraid to make a mistake, that they're going to be humiliated. You don't want people afraid to bring out their real doubts and their real challenges. You want the class to be a very safe space for the students. So for that reason, you want to think 100 times before you really come down heavy on somebody in a public class. I've seen teachers deal with this expertly and seen them deal with it not expertly. What I found usually is find something good and to say, I'm glad that you feel safe enough to challenge these points. I'm glad that you feel safe enough to bring up these questions. And at the same time, we need to have an atmosphere in the class where everybody feels safe, including me, and that I feel that I can be encouraged to teach this class. And if you don't think that I should be teaching, then I'm wondering why you're here. Why you're sitting here as my student if you have such a low opinion of myself and my teaching. Then maybe you should find somebody else that you can properly respect. So, but that would only be for a very extreme situation where you would do that publicly. I mean, you could do that privately. You could go up to someone privately and say, hey, look, I mean, I did that once in Gurukul. One of my students who was normally very respectful became very disrespectful. And I just took her to another room and I said, what's going on? What's the problem? Is there something that you want to work out with me? And then to be willing to try to work it out. So better to try to deal with that privately. Publicly, only if it's very extreme. And then, yeah, I put it that way. I'm glad you're doing this. This is a good thing. And, and there's another way to do this. And you can even model it. You can even, if you think that what I'm saying is wrong. I mean, this is what I talk to my students all the time. I said, start off with I'm confused. Instead of starting off with you're wrong. Start off with I'm confused. Because you might be wrong. You're completely convinced that I'm wrong, but maybe you're wrong. It's possible. Is it possible that you're wrong? So start off with I'm confused. That's what Arjuna does. He says, Krishna, I'm confused by your apparently equivocal instructions. I'm confused by the fact that you said you taught this to the sun god. I don't understand it. Can you explain it to me? He doesn't just come out and say, Krishna, you're an idiot. It's not proper way of dealing with things. He says, I have some confusion about this. Maharaj Pariksit says, I don't understand how you're saying prayaschitta, because that seems to me like an elephant bathing, and I just don't think it's going to work. And so you can say to somebody, I appreciate your bringing up difficult points. I appreciate your questioning whether or not these things are correct. That's good. We want that in a class. And we also want to have, and you can have, what some teachers do is they have like norms printed up, that they put on the wall. And that they even tell people at the beginning, these are our proper norms. And then you can point to them and say, look, we have norm number 4 here. And what's happening here is a violation of norm number 4. And I want to deal with difficult things, and I want to deal with doubts, and I want to deal with confusion. And please, let's deal with them in a way where everybody feels safe. And if you don't feel you can do that, and you really feel that, I'm just a complete nonsense, then please find another teacher that you can respect. So that would be the basic. That would be the basic way. So, yeah, I mean, respect for someone doesn't mean coddling their bad behavior. I mean, I wasn't there, so I don't know. All right. Tomorrow is our last class together. And tomorrow things get at least as exciting as they were today. So the fight just started today. We're going to go into the fight tomorrow. All right, so we are going to be finishing up this chapter tomorrow. And again, any mistakes that I've made here, please ignore them. And correct me if you can. Anything good here is coming from Srila Prabhupada, Prahlad Maharaj, Narada Muni, Sukadev Goswami, and certainly not from me. Thank you. Hare Krishna.